Hello, I'm Annita McVeigh and this is The Context on BBC News. Tonight we're looking at those Israeli strikes in Qatar and working out what they might mean.
At noon today, I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas.
Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals.
There's a heavy police presence, a lot of streets are cordoned off around here, and you can hear there's a helicopter, multiple helicopters that have been hovering above us.
At the moment, we are very much in the dark as to precisely who was killed, how successful in Israel's terms this raid really was.
This hour of The Context will be dominated by events in the Middle East as Israel bombs Qatar, saying the strikes were targeting senior Hamas leaders. But the attack provokes international outrage. The strikes raise questions about the future of ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas to try to resolve the conflict in Gaza. And following the strikes, Israel's Prime Minister says there will be no immunity for Hamas leaders. We will be live in Jerusalem and Washington with analysis from experts on both sides of the Atlantic. There's international outrage over Israel's strikes on Qatar, a key mediator in the Gaza ceasefire talks targeting senior Hamas leaders. More on this story coming up, but right now a short break. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Let's get more now on our main story. Israel strikes on the Qatari capital, Doha, targeting senior Hamas leaders. OK, Michael Robbins, Director of Arab Barometer, thank you very much for your time joining us on The Context as well. We have much more on this story coming up here on The Context on BBC News, so do stay with us. Hello, I'm Annita McVeigh. This is The Context on BBC News. Still to come, the White House denies that a suggestive birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly written by Donald Trump, was penned by the president. Story coming up, but more now on our top story this hour. Israel strikes against the Qatari capital, Doha, targeting senior Hamas leaders. Hamas says 6 people were killed in the attack on the group's compound, including its top negotiator's son and a Qatari security officer. But it says its negotiating team survived. We're going to do much more on this story coming up over The Context, but we'll be talking about the Jeffrey Epstein story in a few minutes. Right now, let's go to this short break. Around the world and across the UK. This is BBC News. Now, the White House has denied that Donald Trump is the author of a lewd letter to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The letter, written for Epstein's 50th birthday more than 20 years ago, is among documents released by a US congressional committee. Now, we just want to show you some pictures coming into us from Doha, where the Qatari foreign minister, this is Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani, is holding a news conference. We're going to bring you lines from that as they emerge. And of course, this is in response to the Israeli strike on Hamas leaders in the Qatari capital, Doha, earlier today. We are seeing from the Qatari Prime Minister that a legal team has been formed to handle its response to the Israeli attack. They've called it a violation, a blatant violation of international law. President Trump, meanwhile, has spoken to the Emir of Qatar and has assured Qatar's leaders that such a thing will not happen again on their soil. Significant links, of course, between the US and Qatar and the other Gulf states. Much more on that coming up in the Context USA, so do stay with us on BBC News.
Hello and welcome to the Context USA with me, Katrina Perry in Washington.
And me, Annita McVeigh in London. On the programme tonight, the fallout continues over an alleged birthday letter from Donald Trump to late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Voters head back to the polls in Virginia.
And the White House responds to news of Israeli strikes on Hamas leadership in Qatar.
At noon today, I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas.
Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals.
There's a heavy police presence, a lot of streets are cordoned off around here, and you can hear there's a helicopter, multiple helicopters that have been hovering above us.
At the moment, we are very much in the dark as to precisely who was killed, how successful in Israel's terms this raid really was.
And joining us this Tuesday are Matt Mower, a Republican strategist who served as a US diplomat in President Trump's first term, and Joe Walsh, former Republican congressman turned Democratic commentator. Welcome to you both.
Welcome and thanks for being with us on the Context USA. Well, we're starting in the Middle East. We are following those latest developments concerning Israel's strike on Hamas inside Qatar. Explosions were heard in the capital, Doha, in the afternoon local time.
OK, we will be back with you both very shortly after this break. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Welcome back to the Context USA, and later this hour we'll have more on that alleged birthday letter sent from Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. Democrats releasing more documents with more pressure ahead for the president on this issue back on Capitol Hill.
OK, Joe Walsh and Matt Mower, stay with us there. Lots more still to come. Do stay with us here on BBC News.
Hello, welcome back to the Context USA with me, Annita McVeigh in London.
And me, Katrina Perry in Washington.
The White House denies that a suggestive birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly written by Donald Trump, was penned by the president.
Now we're going to talk about that Jeffrey Epstein matter in just a moment, but just to bring you some news that is breaking while we're on air here relating to President Trump's tariffs. Of course, the US Court of International Trade ruled in May that the bulk of President Trump's tariffs exceeded any authority granted to him. Last Friday, the US Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. OK, well, we're going to talk about power and influence in the Congress in just a few minutes. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
Now, voters in Virginia head to the polls today in a special election. They'll elect a successor to the late Representative Jerry Connolly, who passed away earlier this year.
OK, well, as Matt says, if the Republican wins, we'll have a big news story to talk about tomorrow. But we'll leave that topic there for now and we'll keep an eye on the race. Matt and Joe, stay with us. You're watching The Context USA on BBC News.
And we're ending The Context USA today with our usual feature at this time for the panel, where our panellists give us the stories they are interested in. And Matt, you've got Georgia on your mind, because we will bring that to you when it happens. Just a reminder that this breaking line that we had in the last few minutes, that the US Supreme Court is to hear the Trump tariff case in November. So the Supreme Court saying that it will speed up a hearing on tariffs. That's going to be potentially very, very significant because the administration has called an earlier court decision on tariffs judicial overreach. And the Supreme Court now going to hear that case on Trump tariffs a little earlier. And a reminder of our top story on the programme this evening, the situation in Qatar, where Israel has carried out a strike on Hamas leaders in the Qatari capital, Doha. Hamas is claiming that its leadership team has survived. We'll have more on that story for you here on BBC News. Stay with us.
Hello there, good evening. A West East